Well, folks, we had a debate. Welcome to the stakes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special post-debate edition of The Stakes with me, co-founder of the Seneca Project, Tara Setmayer, my lovely co-founder, Michelle Kinney, and our even lovelier new National Press Secretary, Mallory Hagan, joining us for our post-VP debate thoughts. We have some. Ladies, this is interesting. The good news is nobody really gives a shit about a vice presidential debate. So anyone who felt like it was okay, kind of, sort of, don't worry about it. This is us discussing it. It's cathartic for us. Most people did not stay up watching this. But it's good to have this exercise, I think, and to be honest about what we saw, the good and the bad, the ugly, the not. And that's what we're here for. So thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to chat about it, give our hot takes on things. But I'm going to give Mallory first right of refusal here because she's our guest and she's the newest member. And we want to introduce her fabulousness to our Seneca Project supporters. So Mallory, welcome. We're so thrilled to have you. You're awesome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be a part of the team and looking forward to this conversation.
Yes. The last time we had a debate, Michelle and I were like, we were over the moon because there was just so much at stake, literally at stake, with the Kamala Harris Trump debate. And she'd like legit wipe the floor with him. Not so much this time. I think this debate, I will say that it did no harm. Tim Walz wasn't horrible, but I think there were a lot of missed opportunities for him. But my thought on this, and then I'll let you answer, Mallory, and then we'll go to Michelle. My thought on this was this, and I tweeted this out. J.D. Vance has been pretending his whole life to fit in. And in his adult life now, he's practiced and pretended, and the performative nature of his entire existence was on display 100% tonight. 100%. Because there wasn't a sincere word that came out of his mouth. And for people who don't know who J.D. Vance really is, or who are just learning him, might have gone, well, this guy's not so bad. What are you guys talking about? And I think that was a calculated decision on the part of J.D. Vance. I don't know if MAGA world was too happy about how conciliatory he was and how decent he came across and measured, maybe. But they wanted him to be an attack dog. And he wasn't that. He was very, very calculated and polished, which is what he is, because he's full of shit. Tim Walz, on the other hand, he just got here, right? He's this guy from Minnesota. He was governor. You know, he's hanging out at the Minnesota Fair, eating butter on a stick with his daughter and shit. Like, he's like, the first question out of the gate was about the most complicated foreign policy problem that has plagued generations of presidents. And he was like, okay. And then he settled in. But those are my initial thoughts here. It was just, who do you trust more to be a public servant and truly cares about people and the job of being a public servant? And who do you think is just in this for performative bullshit and power? That's what I thought.
Yeah, you know, J.D. Vance is smarmy. Like, he's disgusting. Everything about him makes my skin crawl. When he talks, I'm like, you're lying. And you're right, it was very calculated. His smooth demeanor, he said so many things that were not true in a way that seemed rational and thought out.
Definitely, that's Michelle's thing. She was like, it's dangerous.
A lot of crazy shit.
A lot of things. I was like, if you just take it at face value with his demeanor and the way it's delivered, it seems fine. On the other hand, I disagree. Tim Walz did not just get here. He's been a governor. He's been in Congress. He's been a part of this world. And I feel like I was expecting a little bit more by way of his communication style. There's a way to be folksy and down home, but also weave in the correct talking points and make sure you hit your opponent where you need to so that it hurts and so that their hypocrisy is on full display. And unfortunately, I felt like a lot of that was missing tonight. Not always. He did hit JD Vance and the Trump administration where he should, but there is so much asinine shit that this administration said in the past, and it should have been quote after quote after quote after quote after quote, and he had a lot of time to prepare. And so that's where I left feeling, I'm like, wow, you had so much time to prepare and so much material to work with. I really wish we had taken advantage of that. But it goes back to your point, Tara. No one's watching this.
No one cares.
It's politicos and people that are like really into it.
No one cares.
Pointed out. So.
I mean, there were no fly incidents this time, right? There's nobody. There was like, no.
I kind of missed that.
I know, it would have been more interesting. Just to be clear, and then I'll let you go, Michelle. When I said that he just got here, I meant like at this level, where at this level of smarmy bullshit, that's not Tim Walz. He's been a public servant virtually his entire life. But this level of trying to politically bullshit your way around things, that's not his brand. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't think he was ready for JD Vance's onslaught of bullshit. And despite Pete Buttigieg being his coach, and Pete's really smart and really good at this, it's just not in Tim Walz's nature, and you could tell. And like I said, I mean, it's JD Vance has been practicing this for a very long time, and Tim Walz has been at this for this level for 2 months.
Right.
Michelle. Well, I think JD Vance eats bullshit for breakfast, right? I mean, he never says anything truthful, and he can just lie. And Mallory, to your point, says a lot of like crazy shit, but says it in a way that kind of lulls you to sleep. You don't realize what he's saying because he says it in this kind of regulated tone, monotone way that he sounds smart. But if you really look between the lines, or the text itself is craziness. I was saying to my husband and my friend who's here visiting is I don't feel like JD Vance went to therapy in his life, and so instead we have to watch him work through all of his problems on national television.
Yes.
If he mentioned one more time that he had a beautiful wife and 3 children with their ages, and by the way, I'm 40 years old.
Yeah. And I come from Appalachia, and
oh my God.
And I love you.
But never mind though, that this is the first time really he started to claim the children as his own.
Correct.
Right. Not like my wife's children.
So weird.
Correct.
Like that kid, or like the baby or something. It was so weird. I tweeted that too. I'm like, is it just me? Or it's like every time he mentions his kids and his wife, it feels very like empty and canned because
I think he's done all the things that he, with his background and the way that he grew up. I think he looked from the outside into the normal world and saw all the things that you're supposed to do to be a successful person. And I think he did all of the things. I'm going to marry someone. I'm going to go to the Ivy League school. I'm going to have 3 kids. I'm going to go. And he's done all of those things and still can't figure out why he's weird. And and he just continued to lie over and over and over again. I mean, the thing about I never supported a national abortion ban. Bullshit. Yes, you did. And it's on tape.
I know.
Like, we can
multiple
hear you,
times.
Right. Like, we can hear you. This is insane. So the other thing is that he tried to have the American people thinking that there was a peaceful transfer of power in January of 2021. And we all know with our eyes and ears that did not happen.
Screaming at the TV, because that was one of, to Mallory's points, where Walz missed an opportunity. He finished strong, but he should have said, you said you would not have certified the results in 2020. He should have turned to him and say, did Donald Trump win or lose the election in 2020? And would you have certified the results if you were vice president? And then let him say whatever bullshit he was going to say. Right. And then turn to the American people and say and close with what he closed with. Like, this is the choice.
Here's the thing. Right. Exactly. And I mean, JD Vance has a voting record, some of which that has existed, in the last few years, that we can ask him questions about. He has missed 45 of the last 45 votes in the Senate. One of which I believe was the IVF.
The first time.
Right.
I don't know. He might have missed them both.
I don't know.
He definitely
he would have voted for it anyways.
Right.
But, I think at the end of the day too, and the Democrats, somebody in the campaign was leaking to the press the last few days, that Tim Walz was very nervous and that this is not his strong place. This is not his strong suit, is debating. And he had told that to the vice president when she was interviewing candidates to be her vice presidential pick. So I think going into that, he has said, I was a teacher. When we learn in our world, when someone asks you a question, you give an answer. And in political debates, that's not exactly how this works. Yep. So, I think he did the best he could with everything, with all the resources and people that he had at his disposal. Pete Buttigieg is obviously, one in a generation communicator.
Love him.
We're
people dead stands here.
He's been my one. We love Pete.
I also think, though, when you consider the amount of nerves, the pressure, everything that's truly at stake, that's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on someone. We know who JD Vance is. Tim Walz, to your point here, this is his first real national stage presence.
Yep.
And I've been in several scenarios where all I can think is like, please don't ask me that question. Please don't ask me about that. Please don't ask me about that one. Please don't ask me.
You know that better than anybody, Mallory.
Yes.
Explain why, Mallory. Not everyone knows you. Explain why you've been in those situations before.
In my time competing in the Miss America organization and becoming Miss America, the amount of times that you're put in an interview situation where you just pray and hope that they are not going to ask you about the topic or the thing that you know the least about, or that you have, the smallest amount of experience in. And it feels like that was his first question out of the gate. That was like, he was like, oh my God, we're starting here.
Yeah, he was like,
you're in headlights.
Yeah. There could have been some strategy in that to get that out of the way. Maybe everybody's not watching yet, and give him a chance to sort of calm down, and towards the end of the debate, have a little bit of a smoother ride. So.
To be honest, I wouldn't give him that much credit. I think it was it's the news of the day. I mean, there's literally bombs flying over Israel, and it was breaking news, and it's a big deal what's happening there. And so I think it was just, they have to start as journalists with the news of the day, and it's a geopolitical clusterfuck. And so, what do you think? And so,
And of course, being the news of the day means you've had exactly no time to really craft a true response. Yeah.
Right.
But they've been leading up to this. It's not like there haven't been tensions, and very smart people in their circles had to prep him, in case something goes down. This is what you say. But again, like, he's the governor of Minnesota. He's not thinking about Middle Eastern peace and solving a problem that's been, ongoing for ever. So
I will say, though, in that same vein, one of the standout moments to me where he sort of slid in was when he started talking about, as a leader, surrounding yourself with people who actually know more than you.
Yes.
That you don't know everything, and that you need scientists, and you need national security advisors. Right. I felt like that was a moment where I was like, okay, here we go. We're talking about the things that matter in leadership and character. And I felt like that he handled that really well.
You could tell he was more comfortable at that point. Like, as soon as he said that, it was almost like a shift in like, okay, this is my lane now.
I can do this.
Yeah, right. Because people may not know, but Donald Trump has said that he never surrounds himself with people smarter than him.
Oh, yeah,
he actually said that to a student group.
Yeah, I alone can fix it.
Yeah,
right? We know more than the generals.
Yeah, he knows more than the generals. He's the smartest man in the world. He knows more than the doctors and the scientists. And he told a student group, you can Google this, that you should always be the smartest person in the room. That way you're never overshadowed. That is terrible advice.
Tell everyone that you are.
Right. That is like terrible advice, especially if you want to be the leader of the free world again and expect to be a good leader. Good leaders surround themselves with people smarter than them, so that they can get good advice and use their wisdom and judgment to make a decision. I mean, for goodness sakes, but again, poor
speaking of decisions, also, I would love to know whose decision it was to wear that very beautiful pink tie.
Of course, the internet was on fire about this.
I love Jack Fosfer. Katie's pink texture tie. Why? What's it saying to the people? Hate women? Me? Impossible. Just look at my tie. Or Keith Edwards, which I happen to love also. Can we talk about how JD Vance's tie looks like it's made out of couch?
There was no way a couch joke wasn't getting in
there. I was waiting.
So I just so happened to see this one as I was retweeting the show out. Emily Brandwin said, I can't focus on Vance. I keep wondering how many Sephora points he has. Of course, I made an eyeliner joke too, because Asha Rangappa, who I love, was saying something about the pink tie, you know, and I said, Asha, come on, don't you know that makes his eyeliner pop?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and
Yeah.
here's the thing, like, who cares? I don't care who wears eyeliner, who gives a shit.
I know, it's just
the
fun
hypocrisy
fodder.
of the whole thing.
Oh,
Is
yes.
that he's like the most anti, you know, gay, anti-woman, anti-everything. The fact that he might have a little something on his eye, I just find to be rich.
He may have a little something in his tank too.
Listen, I was going to say earlier that, you know, the RNC and Grinder. So
Listen,
that is Don Lemon. That is Don Lemon's favorite topic. Okay. Like he always brings it up. Like
the reason I thought about that is you said he married, he had the kids, he did all the things, he's still unhappy. Like, well,
and I mean, again, I don't want to, I'm not saying, or I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying his trajectory after all of his education out to California to deal with the Peter Thiel, you know, walks him into this job, gives him this job. He gets fired from the job because he's not really like doing anything. So Peter Thiel says, okay, here's millions of dollars to start your own company.
I believe.
Right. And then $10 million to his campaign to run for Senate. It was like the single largest campaign donation in like modern history or something crazy.
And he gave him money to go start some other thing before that. So
yes.
Peter Thiel has
failed.
Right. Well, Peter Thiel has been quite generous to JD Vance, and no one seems to know why. And Peter Thiel has certain proclivities. And do you, buddy? It's a free country.
Yeah, no one cares.
Just like,
as Tim Walz would say, mind your
business.
Right.
Mind your own damn business. But yeah, it's the whole yes, Vance is super creepy, and some of the photos that have come out too, just like, dude, you're not fooling anyone but yourself. And I've said this too, to Michelle's point about JD Vance not getting therapy. I'm like, he's got mommy issues and Trump has daddy issues. And we as the American people should not have to suffer the consequences of their untreated childhood trauma and anger toward their parents.
No.
And add Elon Musk to that group trauma therapy session, because that's what we're living. What they're doing, what they're saying, the policies they're advocating for, their resentment, their hatred, the grievance mongering, the catering to the incel, women hater men, all of it is wrapped up in all of that psychology.
Right. And there was one person on that stage tonight who had to have their mic muted because he continued to talk over the two women moderators in a way that was honestly, like, I shuddered. My entire body shuddered. And I pulled some tweets here too. Jessica Valenti, of course. There was no way that Vance wasn't going to interrupt and talk over two female moderators.
Yeah. Couldn't help it. I
mean, over-talked by an entitled mansplainer. I mean, even men were complaining. It's just, you know.
Yeah, an entitled mansplainer is a great descriptor. And that's like what happened to me last week with Frank Luntz on CNN. He did the same thing. You know, he was an entitled mansplainer, criticizing me for my passion on, you know, defending immigrants and, you know, going after MAGA for lying and being perpetual liars and horrible people. Sorry, not gonna be demure and quiet about it because you're on some Zen journey. Like, fuck off, dude. You're not gonna fucking lecture me about that from your privileged position. Shut up. But anyway, so a lot of women felt
Tara, the American people really just want the truth. That's what.
Yes. Oh, do you want to make a statement or do you want to be effective? How about both? And go have several seats and take your rug with you.
But that's their party. The party's MO at this point. Is telling women to sit down and shut up. And
have babies.
I'm so sick of. That's why we're here. That's why the Seneca Project exists. That's why the stakes are, you know, like,
that is correct.
We
in more ways than one.
We are all not going to be told to just sit by and watch our country and our democracy and our rights be dismantled in front of us. So take your entitlement and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or as we say in New Jersey, and fuck off.
I'm pretty sure my mother is watching.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's after, it's late at night. This is us after dark. We apologize.
My parents watch too, Mallory. I just always leave the F's to Tara, and I just
yeah, that's okay.
keep it PG-13.
You guys are, again, I'm a tough Jersey girl, and the F-bomb is part of our love language there.
It really is. It really is.
Speaking of love language, I think that we need to discuss the conversation about women's rights, because I think that was one of the strongest moments for Tim Walz. He was really settled in by that point into it. And to watch it was infuriating watching JD Vance try to moderate on that issue and act as though, like you said earlier, Michelle, like that he didn't say all these things about how he actually feels. And like, you think we're going to believe you now? Like, get out of here. But Tim Walz came in and he made it very clear that, look, either you trust women or you don't. We trust women, we trust doctors, and that's it. Like, that's the bottom line. And I'm glad that he used the stories of real women who suffered, not only suffered, but some died, which is what we, in our very first ad, A Time for Choosing, one of the brilliant lines that Michelle wrote in there was that, women are going to suffer and die because of this. And so we as women this is our time to choose whether that's the world you want to live in, because there will be no state to escape to. And this was back in June, before we knew anything about these stories, or about women like Amber Thurman trying to escape to another state to get care because she couldn't get it in her own and lost her life as a result of it. So I think this is a good time to remind folks what's at stake and why this is a time for choosing for us. Literally, early voting has started. Roll it.
The Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade and ended a woman's constitutional right to an abortion. We trust women.
There's a threat facing women in America that transcends party lines.
My country doesn't care about me.
And it's time we ask ourselves, do we still value the freedoms we have fought so hard for?
We should all have the care that we need.
This election is a choice, and it is a time for choosing. We're told we have to choose between left or right, but we know what the real choice is. It's a choice between our freedom or their control, between our right to determine our own destinies or Donald Trump. So seriously, America, what the hell are we doing? We can't sit on the sidelines while women in America suffer and die because a right we once had has now been criminalized. If we don't make the right choice, there's no state to escape to. There's no going back. Choosing who will shape our future is a right we still have left. For now. And that choice is up to us.
Yes.
I love that ad.
Yes, me too. It'll always be our favorite. It was our first and we love it. And it applies. It's evergreen. It is evergreen. Everything that we put in that applies to the choice that we have to make as voters, and especially as women. Now that voting is open in some states, it's open in my home state, here in where I live in Virginia, it's we're voting, folks. We are voting.
I think the line where it says we still have to choose for now, the choice for now, it's so timely. I mean, truly, we are a mere days away from potentially not.
That's correct.
That's really terrifying.
And when Michelle and I were making that ad, we actually had to go back and forth with our editors a little bit because, with timing and things like that. And they wanted to take that out. And we were like, no. That is very important. That is like the whole thing. It's for point. Now. That's right. Like, that's the point of the whole thing. I think that's what we even said. We're like, no. That's the point of the whole thing. And they were like, okay, all right, we get it now,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, do we have a clip of what Walz said? I believe his answer on that. Let's play it in case people missed it.
Absolutely.
This issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed. And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas, outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about health care. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in health care for a reason. We trust women, we trust doctors.
I thought that was one of the strongest answers of the night for him. I mean,
I
maybe
agree.
we're a little biased,
Well,
but
and also I think it's the only time he mentioned Project 2025. And I think
which was unfortunate, but yes.
Super unfortunate.
Yeah, I was like I was puzzled as to why it wasn't mentioned more, especially since there's, a growing amount of the population that understands what it is, knows what it is. And I think that kind of triggers people's attention.
Yep. He should have repeated it over and over and over and over again. And mentioned that JD Vance was wrote the freaking foreword to the book for it. Like, I mean, that 130 former Trumpers wrote it. Like, I mean, that's part of
Vance said something about a 900-page policy, something or other.
Yeah, I was like,
speaking of 900-page policy books, come on, man.
Yeah,
you put it in a book and then you printed it and
listen, the guy's better at this. He's better at this part of it. He's better at bullshitting and lying. And what he did, the tactic that he used tonight was to take everything, was projection, to take everything that they were weak on and turn it around and accuse the Harris False ticket of doing what they're actually doing. I just hope that voters were smart enough to see through that. I mean, that's part of why we're here, to inform and to cut through the BS and make sure people, for those who didn't catch it, we're here to inform you and let you know we're not going to let them get away with it, because it's important. They're really literally lying to people in their faces and telling you, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like Walz did a really good job of trying to humanize these issues. And we all know that storytelling and helping people see it through their neighbor's eyes or their own eyes is a really powerful way to help people understand an issue. But when Walz said, if you don't know an Amber, you soon will.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes.
I hope that quote is played over and over and over again, because I don't think people understand how truly close to this issue they really are.
Yeah.
I'm 35 years old, just now for the first time, married, trying to grow our family, starting this process, and having watched my friends go through several pregnancy losses. And I know how dire this situation is and how necessary this healthcare is. And I just want to let everyone who's watching know that I live in Alabama, where this is a very real threat continuously to our healthcare access. And it makes me scared. It makes me really scared to go through this process, knowing that I have the resources and the privilege to leave Alabama if I need to, if it's necessary. And not everybody has that. So I thought it was really important for him to try to humanize this. And I hope people will play that over and over again. Like, if you don't know someone, or you think you don't know someone, because chances are you soon.
Well, you did a really good TikTok video or Instagram video about this, about how there's hospitals and clinics closing in Alabama, and how far women have to go to get pregnancy care, basic reproductive care,
delivery.
right? And which is very scary. I did an interview today with an international paper about what's happening in Georgia. And I explained that, like, you have a reproductive health desert between Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. Where are they escaping to?
Right.
They need healthcare, life-saving, where minutes and hours matter, like poor Amber Thurman, who tried to go to North Carolina to get her care, and it cost her life. You shouldn't have to do that in America. And it's only because we are now, as women, treated as second-class citizens because a right has been taken away.
Well, this is what happens when you leave it up to the states.
Correct.
Right.
And so many people will say, well, just go somewhere else. Well, the privilege that
Right.
requires, the finances that require,
Right.
I mean, the inability to have the humanity to see that there are working parents. There are families who have to make tough choices regarding their healthcare, or who need to.
Right.
And the idea that you're just going to get in your car or hop on a plane and go across the country is insane.
And they also forget the fact, they leave out that a lot of women who choose to have abortions or end their pregnancies are married women with children.
Yes.
They leave that out.
Well, it's because that's not convenient for the
Correct.
Right. It's not, they would much rather demonize, teenage girls or young women who want to put their, careers ahead of their children or families, and they're not doing their duty of being, good little women and having children and doing all the wifely things.
Well, I think that Donald Trump and JD Vance are both prime examples of why people who aren't ready to have children shouldn't.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Then you end up with two grown man children who are entitled mansplainers.
Yes.
And one's a sexual predator, convicted and married 3 times with, 5 kids by 3 different women.
Which is totally fine if that's the choice you want to make.
Yeah, but don't right.
For it.
That's right.
Well, Kara, you were saying about the southeastern states, and it's kind of a desert for women's healthcare in that area. It makes me think about, and there is a documentary about this. I suggest people go watch. In Ireland, because abortion was illegal for so long, there was a boat that used to ride around outside Ireland in international waters, and they would dock.
Oh, wow.
And it was very controversial. I mean, there was always protesters and things like this, and the government tried to shut them down, and it was a whole thing. And this is how women would get the healthcare that they needed. They would go on these boats into international waters and then come back. Now, since then, Ireland has legalized abortion, and in fact is now providing, I believe I read this.
You posted this today on Instagram, right?
They're going to provide free access to IVF to any woman who wants it. That is how far Ireland has come, a very Catholic country.
Right. That's right. And without being, insane about it and, accusing people of being baby killers. I mean, I think we should remind people what JD Vance has said about this issue, because and how he really feels about women. Because the JD Vance we saw tonight, that guy doesn't seem so bad, right? No, okay, that is bullshit. This is the real JD Vance.
JD Vance, who is now effectively the political heir to the MAGA movement.
We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies. Roe versus Wade is an abomination.
There's something comparable between abortion and slavery.
When asked about the exception for rape, he said rape is inconvenient.
I asked Vance if he thought anti-abortion laws should include exceptions for rape or incest.
Look, I think 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Have you changed your stance?
Look, Martha, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Look at the extraordinarily restrictive policies toward women that he has supported.
JD Vance of Ohio told me that Republicans should back a national 15-week abortion ban.
He said you want to ban abortion in Ohio and across this country. Is that true?
Look, I'm pro-life.
JD Vance claiming that women having the ability to leave violent and abusive marriages has harmed society.
One of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, and so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term.
You've got J.D. Vance in Ohio running for Senate, talking about childless women are the problem and are destroying the United States.
Cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
Who do you gonna believe? That JD Vance or the JD Vance that put on the show tonight?
Right.
Well, I want to read something Tim Miller said that he tweeted out. I think it was Mallory who posted this or on our chat earlier. Tim Miller said, "Gotta admit, JD's ability to code switch from a sociopathic ass who is ambivalent to human suffering on MAGA bro podcasts to a guy who credibly seems like he doesn't want other people to die on the debate stage is a useful political skill that he has deployed with effect."
Mm-hmm.
I think that perfectly summed up JD Vance's performance tonight.
But I also think it shows you that they're scared.
Right.
Because he didn't double down. He didn't deploy all of the insane rhetoric.
Not the insane rhetoric.
Something is I mean, it's there for those of us who are listening, who are reading between the lines. But something is telling them that might not be the direction they'd like to be in order to win in November.
Wonder why.
But I thought that was really interesting. I was like, "Ooh, where's the crazy? Why isn't it here today?" Knowing full well that the entirety of the internet and the news cycle will make sure that folks hear what we just saw.
I hope so, because certain cable news channels, I won't mention who, have given him a pass on a lot of things. They've just glossed over a lot of it, and instead they're going to focus on whether Tim Walz was in Tiananmen Square on a certain date or not. Who gives a shit?
I couldn't believe that.
Right? I mean, like, okay, it's a problem. You don't want to embellish things. I get it. But like, honestly.
Well, I mean, why does Donald Trump have a pass to lie all day, every day at every
about
turn,
everything?
Everything.
Well, I mean,
right.
Speaking of,
no one should be lying. We all would prefer that everyone's telling the truth. But if we're going to call it like.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, so there was 2 clips actually I pulled of Donald Trump he had a very eventful weekend.
He did, didn't he? I think a lot of it was eclipsed by the god-awful hurricane, and prayers out to the folks that were in the path of that in Florida and North and South Carolina and Georgia. Like, oh my gosh. I didn't really realize it because there was a lot going on this weekend. And usually I'm like a storm chaser because my family lived in the Florida Keys for years and I lived down there for a couple of years. So we became like amateur meteorologists and I understood like barometric pressure and like, watching the barometric pressure drop for hurricanes concerning strength or not. Like we were nuts and having to evacuate many times. So like the whole hurricane season thing, even when we don't live there anymore, you still pay attention. I have friends down there. This is like the first time in a long time that I did not really fully pay attention to it. And oh my God, it's like Hurricane Sandy or Katrina level. And people just kind of were waking up to this on Monday because so much shit was happening over the weekend. And then the Donald Trump stuff over the weekend was nuts. And a lot of this was eclipsed by that. But I'm glad you're going to show some of this, Michelle, because people need to see it. The guy's losing it.
So there's 3, actually there's 3 clips. There's the first, I labeled 2 of them the same thing. So I actually don't know which one is which, but we'll see which one this is. And then
it's fine.
On the other side.
It is 11:40.
It's fine. We're delirious. It's fine.
It's true. All right. Let's play the first one.
Because global warming wasn't working, because the planet's actually gotten a little bit cooler recently. But climate change covers everything. It can rain, it can be dry, it can be hot, it can be cold. Climate change, everything is. Look, and I believe I really am an environmentalist. I've gotten environmental awards, but I want clean, beautiful air and clean, beautiful water.
I too want clean, beautiful air.
Beautiful. I never approve of the way he says beautiful. I just do not. It sounds gross. I feel like he's gonna molest the air, or there's something is gonna happen, and I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah, it's the.
You know, he had the nerve to say Kamala was in mental decline.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Oh, sorry.
Way to cue it up there, Mallory. Go for it.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. Okay? She was born that way. And if you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this.
Okay, first of all, what's with the fire your makeup artist? Oh, wait, it's Trump. I'm obsessed over this because I don't understand how this guy continues to slop this shit on his face and walk out into public and people are like, oh my God, you look great. Okay, I can't. And what was with the purple hair? I know I have my glasses on tonight, but like, was it me or what was the purple hue on his head?
Blue. It's got blue tinge to it.
Like, it's again, and he's got the buffoonery of all of this, and he's got the nerve to say anything about Kamala Harris. Like, I just cannot. He's such a slob, and it's just
he's disgusting. And I keep thinking about Adam Kinzinger when he said, I think it was late last year, that he smells
odor.
Like that he smells like poop and like hairspray and like a bunch of other things. And they're like, if you've ever been near the guy, like it smells.
Why does that just not surprise me? He just looks like that. He's just
like
gross, right?
He smells like Limburger cheese. He does. And you know that I'm right.
I know. Oh my God. But that, like the things that he said, again, the mainstream media is just kind of like, it's like a shrug.
It's like they're like, well, the bar is low.
Right. Yeah.
But
people want to know Kamala's specifics of her policy. No, we have to talk for 25 minutes on that in those Sunday morning shows.
Speaking of specifics, let's see how Donald Trump responds to being asked about IVF, because again, to Mallory's point, they understand that the things that they've been talking about and the policies in Project 2025 are extremely unpopular. So a lot of the younger, maybe a little more mentally stable people are trying to set him up to answer questions, to sound normal. I'm going to give you the Daily Show setup for this because it's too good and I could never do it justice.
I haven't seen this, so I'm excited.
Very funny.
Isn't how that works, but one more.
Political opponents are saying that you want to ban IVF. Those who are watching here tonight who may be going through this same struggle and are concerned about being able to have this option. And I'd love for you to talk to them about how they should feel.
Life is pretty tough. It can be beautiful, but it can be difficult. We are doing something with IVF because IVF, as you know from friends and people you know, it's really worked out very well for a lot of people. It gave them a child when they would not have had a child. And I told my people I wanted to look at this a couple of weeks ago. And as you know, we have no taxes on a thing called tips. You know that?
What are you talking about?
No, but truly, what is that?
What? I don't think it's that kind of tip, Donald. There's a different tip involved in IVF.
That's the joke that John C's like, wait a second. I'm trying to figure out how do you get to tips? Okay. And he's like, they have a tip. Okay, yeah,
right. Like I'm not understanding. Well, obviously he doesn't, because every time he talks about IVF, he makes some weird comments. He doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think he understands it.
Definitely has no idea what IVF is. No clue.
He was like, I'm in for the fertility. We like
fertilization.
Fertilization, right? That's what it was.
I'm for fertilization. Are you? I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Well. Go ahead, Mallory.
Oh, I was just going to say, the concept of JD Vance bringing up Tulsi and who's the other Democrat that endorsed them?
Tulsi and
RFK.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's like,
The idea that he brought the two of them up as people who endorsed when there is a scroll of Republicans who have said,
literally hundreds,
like thousands at this point.
Right.
I mean, I was like, I don't think that made the point that you thought it did, but okay.
He lives in his own world, and just an aside again, since I'm being petty and it's after hours. What's can somebody explain to me what's with the gray swoosh in her hair? What is that?
I've never known.
I don't understand.
That. When
it irritates me.
When he brought that up and he was like, being raised by two blue collar Democrats, I'm very proud to have the endorsement of Tulsi Gabbard. Okay. First of all, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had brain worms.
Okay. Is literally unwell.
Like he's an unwell man.
Legit.
Who, question.
He's a cub killer. Okay. He's a freaking cub killer.
He cut the head off a
Dog
whale
eater.
And put it in the back of his car. I mean, and this doesn't even touch the other crazy stuff, the anti-vax and all that stuff. Then he's like Bobby Kennedy Jr. I'm like, don't call him that, first of all.
Right.
The other part of this is that Tulsi Gabbard, also, is my internet, I feel like I'm a little spotty. I'm not, okay, sorry. Tulsi Gabbard is from Hawaii, and she was raised in a cult.
Right. Like some religious.
Right, literally.
Right.
Raised in a cult.
Yeah.
So I just feel like these are not the best representations.
What do you mean,
maybe
only the best people.
If you're going to go from one cult to another.
Well,
there's that. That actually makes sense. That tracks. But these people are the Robert Kennedy Jr. First of all, lots of drama on the RFK Olivia Nunzi thing happening tonight.
Oh, right. There's like more to that.
There's more to that story. Goodness gracious. I'll never understand why. I'll never understand it. But
let's see.
Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. Well, first of all, the whole Tulsi Gabbard thing is we all know what that is. It's very Sarah Palin-ish, why they give her a platform, why they even care what she has to say. Mm-hmm. She's another one who tries to make crazy look sane. And if those are the people surrounding himself with those people, it's not helping him win the voters that he needs to win in order to win the election. So I just I don't understand the strategy, but I will say this: he has made some gains in the battleground states over the last couple of weeks, which should scare the shit out of everyone. Yes. Despite all of this, Donald Trump could still win. Okay,
his favorables are going up.
What I cannot. And part of it, I'm sorry, has to do with the way the media is covering
this.
It's 100%. They've been going after Kamala and making demands on her and her campaign and Tim Walz that they don't make on Trump and Vance. The double freaking standard is infuriating, and that's the only reason why this election is as close as it is.
Well, I also think we're looking at a party who seeks to dismantle the Department of Education for a reason.
Right.
We've got.
He loves the poorly educated.
Right. I love the poorly educated.
And I don't want to make a huge generalization about half the country, but we are looking at voters potentially who are not thinking critically about these issues. And as we all know, he speaks to the internal part of them that's not good and gives them permission. And that's what's terrifying to me, because this slope that we're on is heading downhill pretty fast.
Yes.
Yes. And I've said this often, that the fact that 70 plus million people voted for him last time, despite everything that he demonstrated as a god-awful president, and despite what happened with COVID, right? Like hundreds of thousands of people died needlessly because of his incompetence and bullshit. In one of those clips, you said you couldn't help but still see they're still pushing ivermectin. They're still pushing this nonsense. Like, it's all a grift. It's all a grift and a con. And it's so frustrating that tens of millions of Americans have fallen for this and still are Despite all of this, they still
it's
are.
like they don't care.
They don't, because he has unearthed some of the lowest common denominator, worst parts of our being. And I was just at UMass Amherst yesterday speaking to students there. By the way, beautiful campus. I'd never been there before. Shout out to UMass and New England this time of year. It was lovely. And I had chowder. Yes, I did. I had to. There's no way I was leaving. I couldn't get any Dunkin' Donuts, but I got some chowder. So all good. Anyway, but I was talking to students there, and it was like, I always get encouraged when I'm on college campuses and I speak to students. It reinvigorates me, because it gives me hope that that generation is not as, I shouldn't be as quite concerned. They're like, the kids are all right.
Yeah.
It also makes me feel really old. It gives me life, but then I'm also like, oh my God, a lot of the references I made, they weren't alive. And I'm like that person now, but I'm still cool. So nobody can tell me anything. I'm still cool. I might be old, but I'm still cool. So
the kids.
The kids
are all right.
They're going to be all right. I mean,
they're all very engaged. They're
are.
all and very, they feel all the things. That's kind of what I get from them.
They're super emo, but in stuff like this, I think that's good because it motivates them.
Right. I feel like they're very engaged. And I think that, obviously TikTok and I hate to generalize that, but it is true. They're all kind of on TikTok and Instagram and getting so much information there.
Yep.
And, and to the point, they talked about this on during the debate as well, as the gun violence issue. And like, this is a huge thing, especially for this generation. I mean,
one of the students asked me about that, actually. And I said to them, when I was in school, we did like evacuate the school bus drills. Okay.
Right.
Do active shooter drills.
No.
And like, that was unimaginable. I couldn't even imagine that in Paramus, New Jersey. Are you kidding me? No. Like, we got excited when we had to do like, all right, everybody, the bus is here.
Fire drill.
Right.
Right.
Fire
drill. I mean, Columbine happened my junior year of high school. And, since then, my husband had a friend who was shot at Virginia Tech. He's still alive, thank God. I knew people at Sandy Hook. I mean, I'm sure Mallory too. Like, we know people who've been touched by mass shootings many times over at this point.
Tim Walz's son. I didn't know that when he made that comment tonight. That was something I hadn't heard. Maybe we missed it, or I don't know if they talked about that. But
I didn't know about that either.
I had no idea about that. And again, JD Vance's false sincerity about that, like, I know, praise God or whatever he said about that.
What was it like?
He said, sweet Jesus or something, or
like,
I don't know.
Almighty.
Christ Almighty. There it is.
Because he tweeted the same thing earlier today, and I just happened to see it.
Are you serious?
Steve or him, whoever. It was a.
Everything is a canned line with this guy. I was going to give him credit for being human in that moment, and no, even that was bullshit.
And here's another thing about JD Vance too. Like, will the real JD Vance please stand up? To him, I don't think he knows who he is. He has changed his name 3 times. He just converted to Catholicism a few years ago, which, I don't know. It's like become his entire personality, like the weird stuff that he says. Because there's like this, I don't know, there's like this performative kind of opus, what's it? Why am I blanking? Opus Dei.
Yeah.
Kind of like part of all of this that makes me like the secret society craziness.
Yes. Well, he did go to Yale.
Right. That's what I mean. And it's like, I'm reading that thing about the Supreme Court the other day too in Opus Dei.
And all of the justices who went to Yale.
Right. I don't think he knows who he is. And I
agree.
And I think that, again, this is a man who is working out his problems on national television.
Yes, which is why when Tim Walz called him weird, it resonated at the time, because everybody was looking for the word to describe it. It's freaking weird. The whole MAGA thing and all of the deification of Trump and the gear that they wear and the animation that they do and the weird shit they put on social media and their little own social media workplaces. It's freaking weird. It is. Sorry.
But I also thought Walz had a really good moment when he said, "Why isn't Pence here?"
Yes.
I thought For a lot of people have forgotten that.
I was hoping. Now, again, I think Tim Walz is a very nice man and he wasn't going to do this, but I wish that he had, because it would have made news. You have to say to him, why do you think you're here and not Mike Pence? He tried to have your guy before he tried to have him killed.
Yeah.
Like, you have to say it that plainly.
Yes.
Like,
I don't think there's anything that's not nice about that. That's just the truth.
It's the truth.
And I wish, for the sake of democracy, that had been pointed out, because to your point, it would be all over the news. And that's the question that people should continually be hearing, which is, why do you think this guy's here? Because Trump thinks he's going to do what Pence wouldn't.
That's right. That would have been the memorable moment of the night if he had done that. That would have been the headline. And you know, I think I tweeted this out too, where I said, like, look, where's the feisty Coach Waltz? Like, I understand Minnesota nice, and I get that, but like, tonight wasn't the night for that. You could have mixed that in. You could have had the folksiness that he has, that's real. But he also has a feisty side, which is what we saw in the beginning, where he's like, I can't wait to debate this guy. I couldn't tell that tonight. You know, that wasn't the same guy, because he was nervous. You know, I get it. You're nervous, but like, he should have just gone for it. That's my criticism sometimes with Democrats, though, that they over prepare and are too worried about offending. And like, we got to stick to the, you know, the focus group talking points on some of these things. You don't want to go too far. You know, no, to Michelle says all the time, lack of imagination will lose elections for you and will end up with another nightmare of Donald Trump. You have to go for the jugular all the time. There's ways to do it. You don't have to be horrible. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to yell at people screaming or what. No, but he could have done it in his way and gotten the point across, and it would have been the knockout punch.
Well, and the thing that Walz has to his favor is his plain speak. And the thing that Republicans have done for the last 8 years is they're going to take your guns and kill your babies. Take your guns and kill. That's all they say. That take your guns, kill your babies. And, and this election cycle, and brown people are coming in and they're stealing.
Right.
But it's a 1 or 2 word thing that they just repeat over and over again.
Very good.
You get lost in the minutia.
Tara knows.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's too lofty. Like, just tell him what's happening.
Just tell it like it is. That's
Mallory,
right.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I feel like in the last several years that I have spent working around Republicans and former Republicans, I feel like I have learned my own version of defense against the dark arts. And I feel like, especially with working with Tara, is, we're not afraid to kind of say the things in the way that they need to be said for people to be able to understand it, like in a visceral way.
Yeah.
In a visceral way.
Well, that's the beauty of also not being the candidate, right?
That is true.
And that's why places like the Seneca
client
Project exist. That's why people should get on board with us, because we do get to say the things that Tim Walz can't say. And
that's right. We get to say the things that the campaigns can't say. We get to say and produce the content in that the legacy organizations cannot, because we don't have a client. You, the voter, is the client. We don't have to answer to the bigger corporate kind of politics of some of those organizations or the campaigns. They're fighting multiple battles at one time. We're singularly focused, and we don't have to worry about those things. That's what makes us effective, and that's what makes us different. And that's why we appreciate when people donate to us, because you know what you're going to get from us, and you know exactly what we're going to do. And we pull no punches, because we can't. There's no time for that. There's an urgency of now. And if it's not us, then who? We have to be the Navy SEALs and go in there, precision messaging killers. And that's what we do. And the campaigns can't do that. So but I will say they've done a better job this time around. I think I will give credit to the Harris campaign. Their rapid response and their social media
they have a great team of
fantastic.
They are killing it.
They're killing it. They've got very young people.
Yes. Kamala HQ in real time was taking JD Vance's quotes and putting them on top. I was like, wow, this is so nice to see.
Yes,
And
I'm
they
glad they
also-
learned that part.
And they have little teams for each platform. Like, so they have like 5 or 6 people. I think everyone's like under 25 that's
Yes,
working.
they
on this
are.
stuff. And they have a little team for every platform and they all work together. And I just think, listen, when it comes to rapid response, between the actual response and the content that comes with it, it's like there is so much value in being current, edgy, funny, and first.
Yes.
First. You have to be
Yes.
first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they recognize that, because this is a new era of politicking, and they have definitely taken that and run with it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that they're outpacing MAGA. They're way better than this. I think Trump had an edge over Biden last time around.
Yeah.
And an edge even over Hillary, because they had no they
Listen.
had no filter, so they didn't care. So they would just do
Right.
provocative shit, and it was, but
Listen,
this time
liberals were also funnier.
Yeah.
It's funnier.
This is true. This is true. I think that we should probably remind folks again of something else that JD Vance and those guys are trying to gaslight the American people into believing. They're just wonderful about it. And it is the IVF issue. We were talking about that before, that Trump doesn't even know what it stands for. And they know that this is a losing issue for them if they don't get it right. And it was one of the few issues that in Project 2025 that people were like, they're scared to death of Project 2025, but they think he won't be so bad on abortion and women's rights. That is nuts. And the IVF issue is another one of those where it's all about fetal personhood and what the Christian nationalists are trying to do at the state level to try to muddy the waters on this. And we put together an ad called Hope that Michelle and I wrote, that really people need to, the more people that can see this, I think the better, to understand not only what women go through, but what the dads go through. And as far as JD Vance and Donald Trump are concerned, and the people who support them, if they get into power, we won't have that option of IVF anymore.
It wasn't easy getting here. The loss, the heartbreak. My wife is tough, resilient. She said, we'll just keep trying. I didn't know much about IVF until we needed it. There were moments when all hope felt lost. But we finally got our miracle. From the moment I held her, I vowed to protect her. If it were up to Donald Trump and JD Vance, our little girl wouldn't even exist. They don't care about the joys, the sacrifices. They only care about their control over our lives and her future. Who the hell are they to tell us how or when we become moms and dads? We know what's best for our families. It's time to stand together, not with any party, but as parents. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz get that. That's why this fall, I'm voting for her. I'm voting for hope.
Man, I got a chance to play that ad at UMass yesterday. And a lot of the administrators and the professors who were there were in tears. And the students were like enthralled. And after it was over, I got to play a bunch of our ads, but after it was over, a male student, grad student, walked over to me and gave me a hug and said, "Thank you so much for speaking for us. I'm an IVF dad, and here's a picture of my daughter who was born as a result." And I was texting my wife saying, "You should have been here. You should have been here." And she had to work today. So I came to represent both of us, and I cannot thank you guys enough for putting this issue out there from the dad's perspective. And that just gave me, it gave me all the feels, because it makes what we're doing matter. It shows that we're having impact. And so for those of you who support us and want to continue to support us, the more resources we have, the more we can play those ads and get them in front of larger audiences, because that's how we do it. That's what fuels us here. That's what your support does. It allows us to create things like that and to get them placed in places where more voters can see them.
True that.
Yes, yes. Well, we've been yapping for an hour. I think we've said final thoughts on tonight's debate and what we're looking at as we move forward. Michelle?
Well, I have one thought that's kind of not specifically the debate, but just more about the Republican Party as a whole.
Yep.
Listen, I don't know what's going to happen in November more than anybody else is. I'm to be totally transparent, I'm very nervous.
Me too. No, me too. I lose sleep over this.
Same. But I will say that down the ballot, there is some real weird shit going on.
Mention what's happening here in Virginia.
So in Virginia, there is a man running for Congress against
Eugene Vindman.
Sorry, I didn't know which one it was.
Eugene.
And
the twin.
Yes. And well, let me just show you. Okay. This man.
Oh, I did not know where this was going.
This is right next to where I live. I literally live like 10 blocks away from the line of this congressional district, so I cannot vote for Eugene Vindman. I wish I could. That's Abigail Spanberger's old district. That's Virginia 7. I live in Virginia 10. So I get to vote for a good candidate on Dan Helmer on our side, veteran, pro-choice. He's great. But I really wish I could vote in this one because people who don't know the Vindman story, Alex and Eugene Vindman are the twin brothers, military, worked in the Trump White House. And it was Alexander Vindman who basically blew the whistle on the whole Ukraine extortion thing, lost his whole career, didn't get his promotion. His brother was on the National Security Council. He was a JAG officer, I think, there. And he didn't get his promotion either as retribution for their role in being honest with what Donald Trump was doing. And now Alex and his family basically had to move to Florida. And Eugene stayed behind to run for Congress here in Virginia.
Yeah. And he's running against someone.
Yeah, Derek Anderson, I think his name is.
Yeah. So he is supposedly, he lives at home alone with his dog.
This sounds great.
He has a fiance. I don't know who that is or if she lives in Canada. But
this sounds very, what's his name? Who had the beard that he just married?
Well, right.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. Yeah, this sounds very Tim Scott. Go ahead.
But he borrowed his friend's family to take a weird photo shoot. That's not his family.
That is
Those are not his children. That is not his wife.
So creepy.
It's so weird. And it looks like a family holiday snap, except that the woman and children posing with Republican Derek Anderson are not his wife or his offspring. Anderson, who is running in a close race for Virginia's 7th congressional district, was seen in another image seated around a dining room table with the same woman and 3 girls.
Okay.
Why?
We know why.
I know. But it just goes to a larger thing that
you can't be a single guy that doesn't have children to run in the Republican Party because then you're looked at as lesser than, I guess. I don't know, but
there's a lot of projecting going on.
So much, and I think he's also a military guy. And so they just had a town hall debate thing a couple weeks ago near where I live. I wish I could have gone, but they got into a back and forth about this, and it's like the whole thing again is creepy. Weird. I don't want someone representing me that feels they have to do this.
It's like this weird, George Santos, all of them. It's like it's somewhere between The Talented Mr. Ripley and American Psycho, and then the guy who puts a weird thing in your drink. It's just all of them. I can't. It's just so strange. It's okay to be single and run for office. Cory Booker did it. It's fine.
It's
Don't worry about it.
But they will ask you about it at every turn when you do.
Right.
They will say, "What is wrong with you? Why haven't you been chosen yet?"
It's just too much.
Donald Trump is single. They don't seem to care about that.
Yes,
I don't know if Laura's still in the picture.
Oh my gosh.
Where's his wife?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How come nobody's asking that question? Oh, she's
right.
out.
She wrote a book. She's on a book tour.
She didn't write nothing.
Right.
Did she copy and paste Michelle Obama's book this time? Or
the fucking Christmas trees. Fucking Christmas. I'm working my ass off for Christmas. Oh, I can't. Michelle knows how much I cannot stand Melania Trump. I just cannot. I have no patience for her. I think that I can't. I don't want to.
I've
said many things before. I've already been spicy and saucy tonight enough.
Listen, I'd like to remind people that she is not a victim. Melania Trump is not a victim, and neither is Usha Vance. Neither one of these women are victims. They are enablers, and I would argue in some ways just as bad. So
indeed, very Ava Brownish. Do we have We Must Win, Michelle?
We do.
Okay, I think we should end on something positive, because between Mallory's home run one-liner of the night, Mallory wins. She gets the gold star tonight. I want everyone to feel empowered and invigorated and determined. And not only will we win, we must win. We must win, because the alternative is unimaginable. And that's not the future I want to leave for my friends' kids, because I don't have children. But it's not only about us. It is about leaving a future for a better future for everyone. And that should be our goal as good people and good citizens. And we still have the choice for now. So let's exercise that choice, people, and make sure that they are vanquished to the ash heap of history, because that's where they belong. And on that note, we're going to end on our ad, We Must Win. We'll see you guys on Thursday for our regularly scheduled stakes. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys on Thursday.
Bye.
Thanks, Mallory.
From the 6 a.m. practice to the away game pickup, from her first goal to the state finals, from the big wins to the big lessons, we take care of all the little things. We do these little things so our daughters can achieve big things. We do all of this for their future. And this fall, that future is on the line. We have come so far, but we have one big thing left to do for our daughters. Their rights are on the ballot, and we won't go back. Not now, not ever. This fall, we will go for the gold, and we must win for them.
This election, it will come down to the women turning out in the battleground states.
We know that when women show up, we win.
We've got one job to do. We have got to beat Donald Trump and elect the first woman president of the United States.
We have work to do. We have doors to knock on. We have people to talk to. We have phone calls to make. And we have an election to win.
It is a brand new race.
It's a moment that I feel like people are energized.
Kamala Harris is bringing that energy.
Women are fed up. This is their lives. This is their body on the line.
Birth control is at stake.
I cannot vote for a man who rolls back women's reproductive rights.
If Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban, but we are not going to let that happen.
Abortion advocates are going to come out even harder for her because they know that she has been their champion in the White House.
The government should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
It was Kamala Harris that was cross-examining the very nominees that became the justices that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Vice President Harris, former prosecutor. Donald Trump, convicted felon.
I will proudly put my record against his.
She has overcome and overperformed and been underestimated at every turn of her career.
She's broken and smashed glass ceiling after glass ceiling.
And for all of those people asking, is this country ready for a woman president? Is this country ready for a black woman president? Well, you better get ready, because Madame Vice President is coming your way.